Good day, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Viper of Viperland, and my mic was set too low again. We're back. It's Great Ace Attorney. We are on the final chapter. We had just had a segment where we were back on the boat, and presumably we are now back in court. So we'll see how things go from here. Kazuma Sogi, I know you, and I know you wouldn't lie, but still, there's no doubt that you're holding something back. You know more than you're saying. During the past 30 minutes, while this court was adjourned, all possible efforts were expended. But sadly, Mr. Jikoku's whereabouts could not be ascertained. We must accept the unfortunate conclusion that the Reaper has already done the deed. Totally finish this tonight. Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I assume this is going to be a long chapter, so, like, definitely, yeah, oh yeah. There's no sense in wasting any more of the court's time. The prosecution calls for an immediate verdict. No, the trial cannot end now. You're a Japanese man, Ryunosuke. You should know when to lay down your sword. And you should know never to presume when the battle is won. The court has already been presented with all the evidence and heard all relevant testimony, and there can only be one conclusion, that the accused is guilty. All relevant testimony? Far from it. There's still a crucial witness, from whom the court has yet to hear a single word of testimony. In that case, call your witness to the stand at once, counsel. Yes, my lord. Tomorrow, if possible. The witness is already on his way, and scheduled to arrive tomorrow. Who on earth is this crucial witness? Seishiro Jikoku. The very man allegedly murdered by the Reaper. Judge Jikoku, you found him. Yeah, of course. Straight shot to the end. Yeah, of course. Of course. Hey, Graham, how's it going? Welcome to Viperland in the chat. How you doing? But the investigations of every policing resource in the capital suggest that Jikoku is already dead. Well, he's not, so all your cops suck! How in the name of God did you find the man? He was located in France during the recess, at the port of Dunkirk. Thanks to one of Mr. Herlock Sholmes' famous deductions. Herlock Sholmes. Inspector Gregson almost certainly met with Mr. Jikoku on the night of his death, because, along with Prosecutor Asogi, Gregson was on a mission to assassinate the man. Which means that Seishiro Jikoku is the sole witness, who can clarify exactly what happened aboard the SS Grouse on the 31st October. Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't hold any grudges either. Well, it would appear that it's too soon to move to agitation at this point. The prosecution concurs. The court must hear Mr. Jikoku's testimony. No judgment should be passed until all testimony has been considered. You're gonna break your little unicorn, just saying. In that case, I hereby call the end of today's proceedings. Court will reconvene at the same hour tomorrow. No objections from either side? No, my lord. No objections, my lord. We live to fight another day. Skin of our teeth. Well, hey. Fight another day is not bad. We take those. To be continued. I was so close to a to be continued last time. I just assumed it was going to keep going. Like, we found the guy, it wasn't thrown out. Well, whatever. The only way we could know where all of them were is by already playing the game, so... Yep, stream's over. That's it. The unexpected halt of proceedings sent a clamor around the courtroom. But outside the Bailey, where Londoners knew nothing of the secret trial within, it was a typical still night. Then, at a little past 8 o'clock that evening, Mr. Sholmes and his partner returned to Baker Street. for a hell of a dinner, it looks like. 3rd November, 8:07 p.m., Sholmes' suite. We have returned, my dear fellows. Welcome back to Britain, and thank you for your timely help. Think nothing of it. I believe you've had an even more wearing day than Mikotoba and I, no? You could say that. We were on the brink of defeat in court earlier. So, this prosecutor Asogi had you on the ropes, did he? And he's your best friend, you say? Well, he's not really the man I knew in Japan anymore. Kazuma's changed. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. I mean, it's incredible. To think that he'd even entertain the idea of acting as the Reaper's assassin. Oh, nevertheless, you must introduce me. After all, I've only ever met your young man as a corpse. Yep. When all this started, almost a year ago now. Mr. Sholmes still hadn't told us the truth about what really happened back then. About the motivation for what he himself described as a great detective's lie. Now then, I must say, it's really quite a journey all the way to France. Well, it is another country, Mr. Sholmes. So, what news of Judge Shikoku? Took him to Scotland Yard. The investigating detectives there have a lot of questions for the man. Yeah, no kidding. Poor Professor Mikotoba. This must be quite a shock for him. Ah, yes, I picked this up at the telegraph office on our way home. What is it? Surely you haven't forgotten already. I put upon you for the matter only yesterday. You put upon me, Sholmes. I had to fill out your telegram to Japan and foot the bill as well. Oh, you've had a reply already. What was so urgent, though, Mr. Sholmes? Such matters can wait until later. I'm far too hungry for an involved conversation at present. Yeah. Well, that's good news, because supper is ready, everyone. Ah, and what a feast it is! If I were none the wiser, I'd think the trial were won already. Roast beef, kippers, stew, steak, and kidney pie, Yorkshire pudding. What are kippers? Alright, I've definitely heard it before, but I never actually thought, like, what the hell are kippers? Everything else I get. Kippers are a British breakfast dish consisting of herring that's been split, cleaned, salted, and smoked, often enjoyed with butter, lemon, and sometimes a poached egg. Cool. Not a seafood person. That explains why I don't know what kippers are. Also not British, but I'm gonna blame it on the seafood. Tomorrow could be a very long day, so eat up. In that case, I think I'll seat myself just here. This place appears to be the only one set with a helping of pheasant as well. Oh, sorry, Hurley, not there. Huh? Why ever not? Are we in set places this evening? Yes, and that place is for Susie's dad. For me? That's right, I made it especially for you, Professor Miki. I see. Well, that's terribly kind of you. It's a shame, really. What do you mean? Well, for a brief moment, I believed it. That Susie and I were half-sisters, I mean. Oh. Iris, do you mean... Yes, I know now. I overheard yesterday. I secretly listened into the conversation you had. After I tricked you into all thinking I'd left. Very tricky, very sneaky. Well, you fooled Sholmes, for sure. The misunderstanding arose because of that autopsy report from 10 years ago. But actually, it turned out that neither Dr. Wilson nor Professor Mikotoba are Iris's father. Okay. And who is... Yes, about that Iris. You know, I know. You can't tell me at the moment. Okay, so it's not the guy who got murdered at the beginning. Potential positive. It's not Mikotoba, so she's not half-sisters. So, who and why can't you tell her? Is she the Reaper's child? I mean, it has to be somebody in the story we know. I feel like if it was Sholmes, he would just say it at this rate. I don't know. I don't know. Also, hey, Eric, how's it going? Welcome to Viperland in the chat. Excuse me. I mean, we're running out of time to tell her. So, like... You know. Ah, you have reaped too reapily and have reaped yourself. Oh, Iris. No, you're the reaper. You just, you know, cut a wide swath of reaping. It just happens to include you. The pheasant is by way of an apology. I'm sorry for eavesdropping. Oh, no, that's quite alright. Then why don't I get any apologetic pheasant? So just who is Iris's father? Suppose that's not something we'll be finding out today. Maybe tomorrow. Who knows? So then, let us dine while our largely pheasantless plates are still piping hot. You complaining little snob. A fine idea, Sholmes. It all looks absolutely delicious. Eat as much as you like. There are always seconds. Unless you want pheasant, in which case screw you, Sholmes. This could be our last chance to ask questions before tomorrow's trial. About that telegram from Japan, and about Cosmo, and about who her father is. Don't say that, Ark. That's too mean. There we go. Can't let this opportunity slip away. That sure is a sitting position. Oh, we have to look around. Okay. Well, I'm gonna assume we have to talk to Sholmes then. Mr. Sholmes? What are you doing? Surely it's abundantly clear. I'm moping because I don't have any pheasant. That I wasn't brooding over Mikotoba's refusal to share his pheasant with me. Nevertheless, I felt the need to withdraw from the social circle for a while and look on with hungry eyes. Ha. Sorry, Hurley, but I cooked that pheasant especially for Susie's dad. Even though I've played the role of father to you for far longer. Mr. Sholmes? Could I discuss some things with you? Certainly, my dear fellow. I find myself quite in the mood for a spell of conversation. Not for nothing bounces back quick. No doubt you're hungry to learn more of my deep love of game. I can probably contain my curiosity on that one. You needn't look at me in that fashion. In what fashion? It seems that before we discuss the pheasant, we have some rather unpleasant matters to discuss. Yeah. You know, I mean, depends. How unpleasant is the telegram from Japan? So, what was in the telegram you received back from Japan then? Ah, this, I think my lucky stars had arrived in time. Record found as indicated. Duplicate follows. K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson. Wow, those 4 names. We've come across that exact same list before. They came up in that unforgettable case last spring. What appeared to be a simple case of aggravated murder turned out to be masking monumental intrigue. A plot that involved the sale of British governmental secrets to foreign states. In exposing the means by which those secrets were being leaked, we deciphered a fragment of a message. K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson. But we didn't find the names out until the case was over, and we never did get to the bottom of what they meant. All we knew was that the information had been sent by somebody in the British government to somebody in Japan. So, why are the names coming up again now? Yes, where did the sender of your telegram discover them, Mr. Sholmes? I have here the message I had wired yesterday. Allow me to read it to you. Enter Judge Jikoku's office undetected and investigate telegram records. Expect to find communication from Britain dated 1 year ago. List of 4 names, need by tomorrow. Naruhodo. sent it to a detective I know who specializes in clandestine missions of this nature. You asked Inspector Hosonaga to undertake such an onerous task for you? And in my name? I wonder what guise he opted for this time. My dear fellows, it was a matter of great urgency, you understand. Anyway, the list of names was found in Seishiro's office, as Sholmes predicted. So you mean, that mysterious collection of names that was sent from Britain to Japan was... It was sent to Judge Jikoku. He was the intended recipient. I don't believe it. But that doesn't answer the question of what the list of names actually signifies. I did formulate a hypothesis about that. But without a shred of evidence, I couldn't possibly have shared it. Mr. Sholmes looks deadly serious for once. Telegram from Japan has been entered into the court record. I mean, we could help, look for it. Fine, we just won't talk about it. Sure, it'll all come to light in the trial. That tragedy we had to go through on the SS Bureau, it was all for nothing. Cosmo wasn't dead at all. We were completely taken in by the lie you told us, your Greek detective's lie. I took no pleasure in deceiving you. However, at the time, all that concerned me was preventing the young man's study tour from taking place, whatever the cost. What? Excuse me. I capitalized on the events that transpired to see that he was sent back to Japan. His remains, you mean? Precisely, Miss Susato. Then, I made sure that somebody else was sent to Britain in his stead. Oh my, you mean... The arrangement between our two countries was already in place. One university student, lawyer, and one judicial assistant to be accommodated on a study tour. In other words, by arranging for someone else to fill the place originally intended for Mr. Asogi, I would successfully prevent the man from arriving on our shores for several years at least. Wait, do you mean to say that it was all in aid of stopping Cosmo coming to Britain? That's why you... Think back, Mr. Naruhodo. Was there not somebody who quite casually urged you to continue on the voyage to England? Don't know if I should necessarily use flashback voice for flashback to not even this game, but I'm gonna roll with it. There's definitely a scene we saw, just not in this game. So you manipulated me. I've often remarked on the extraordinary lengths to which friendship will drive a man. I was quite sure that you would rise to the challenge for your late friend. I don't believe it. But if it was all contrived... I mean, what happened was treated by the authorities as murder. A woman was mistakenly arrested as the perpetrator. What do you suppose became of her? Naturally, I didn't allow the misapprehension to have any serious repercussions. I subsequently explained everything and assisted the unfortunate soul in finding the foreign refuge she sought. I seem to remember Miss Susato and I had some rather strong words for her. Well, she was certainly not devoid of all guilt. She deserved every word, I'm sure. I wonder if she made it to America then. I'm afraid I simply cannot comprehend it. Why would you go to such lengths, Mr. Sholmes? Why were you so determined to stop Cosmo-sama from reaching Britain? The truth is, 12 months ago, there was already a very tangible omen of the impending tragedy, you see. Oh. An omen that at this very moment in time is close at hand. An omen of all these tragic events that already existed a year ago. It's close at hand. We need to find out exactly what Mr. Sholmes knows. Does that mean we gotta present something then? What do we have from that we had from a year ago? I guess those existed a year ago? It's the only one I can think of, but that's not it. Mr. Sholmes, yeah, that's not it. Yeah, the pheasant, yeah. Yeah, no way it's that. It's not something that would be physically in the room, would it? It's gotta be something we present to him. Not a year ago. Longer than a year ago? Not a year ago. 10 years ago. No. The autopsy report? No. I don't remember exactly when they borrowed that. Oh, that's the Gregson one, not the borrowed one. Where do we not have the other one? Clint, there you go. Okay, I was still wrong, but that's the one I meant to show. Still wrong. Well, we might just have to start going down the line. Notice board? Alright, well, we shotgunning. I truly don't know. I can assume it's not the newspaper, but when you shotgun, you can't assume anything. Doubt it's the picture. Doubt it's that. Yeah, if that was 10 years ago, not one, but again, just making our way down. Honestly, not sure. Wait, wouldn't it just be the telegram? I always forget that, like, sometimes it's just the thing they just handed you. Yeah. It was, yeah, okay, sorry. My bad. That was a brain fart moment. It definitely was this the whole time. I definitely should have realized that. Alright. There was no room for doubt. Oh, sorry, wrong character. There's no room for doubt with your instructions in this telegram, Mr. Sholmes. You were very clear that it was Judge Jikoku's office that should be searched, so you obviously knew that's where the list of names would be found. K. Asoki, A. Shin, T. Gregson, J. Wilson. But we only learned of those 4 names just over 6 months ago now. and only because they appeared as part of the top-secret government communications that were leaked. That's true, yes, but at the time you were unaware of the background. You see, those 4 names were wired to Japan. Around 6 months before that, approximately this time last year in fact, when you were both still in Japan. It really would be hypocrisy on my part to reprove others for intercepting state secrets. Because after all, I'm perpetually eavesdropping on communications between the British and Japanese governments. You're perpetually doing what? How? Never mind the details, but you should know. No secret is safe from Herlock Sholmes, when he has designs on knowing it. Oh my, Mr. Sholmes, what a fabulous line. Now, 1 month after the list of 4 names was wired to the recipient Jikoku in Japan, Dr. John H. Wilson was murdered. As soon as I learned of the incident, a hypothesis rapidly took shape in my mind. As it turned out, I was partially correct and partially mistaken. Nevertheless, it was the beginning of all the tragic events that were to follow. Mr. Sholmes, please, tell us all that you know. Tell us about those 4 names and the tragedy to which they're all somehow connected. No! Ah, okay. As I said, when I learned of Dr. Wilson's murder in Japan, my mind immediately turned to those 4 names, because you see, there was someone else on the list, who I believed to be recently deceased. What? Who? A Shin, as it was transcribed in Japanese script. In actual fact, Miss Assassin, that was a familiar name to me. She was a professional killer, well known amongst London's unsavory classes. Oh, I see. But she completely vanished from existence several months before Wilson's murder. So I came to the logical conclusion that she had herself been killed, and accordingly I became fearful for the lives of the remaining 2 persons on the list. Ah, Kei Asogi and T. Gregson. Excuse me. Owing to our proximity, I decided to take measures to protect Gregson myself. But I determined it would be safest if young Asogi were to stay away from Britain. Ah, so that's why you went to such lengths to prevent his study tour from going ahead. Exactly! So, you already knew who Kazuma-sama was, Mr. Sholmes? Oh yes, Sholmes and I have exchanged correspondences for years. I've recounted many tales about Asogi to him in my letters, and the news of Dr. Wilson's death, of course. So, Dr. Wilson is dead then? I didn't know. Oh, Iris. I know he wasn't my daddy, but still, it's very sad. I'm so sorry, Iris. We knew the significance of the name, obviously, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to tell you. No. But what you just told us, Mr. Sholmes, doesn't completely tie in with the facts. There's one big hole in your hypothesis. A big hole, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, yes. You mean about Asashin, I presume? Oh, of course! Exactly. She wasn't killed, was she? She was in Japan, posing as a visiting student under the assumed name of Josiah Brent. I'm glad you're keeping up, my dear fellow. But I only became aware of that fact 2 days ago in the foyer of the Great Waterloo Hotel. Ah. And upon hearing that startling revelation, the hypothesis that I'd formed surrounding those 4 names was completely turned topsy. What? Topsy? Topsy hypothesis. Oh, I know he's not my dad, so it's okay. Yeah. I mean, but she didn't know. She only knew the name. That's it. What do you mean when you say your hypothesis was turned to topsy, Mr. Sholmes? I believed all 4 names on the list to be the names of victims. However, I was mistaken. Very much so. Asashin was a killer. So this telegram is a list of both victims and killers, is it? Indeed, and it would seem that Miss Shin, was dispatched from Britain with the sole intention of dispatching Dr. Wilson, the visiting student status being merely a front. Ah. Which would of course explain why no motive could be determined for her actions. So the real reason Dr. Wilson was killed by Asa Shin is because he was the target of an assassination. And forearmed with that knowledge, fresh consideration of this telegram puts the list in a very different perspective. What do you mean? Well, does it not strike you there is another among the four who subsequently became a visiting student? Wait, you mean... But of course, a name you know only too well. You mean... Zuma? Oh. He did say in court earlier today. Young Mr. Asogi accepted that mission a year ago now. Surely not. In conclusion, this document is a contract of sorts. An international agreement, one might say. Detailing an assassin exchange. An assassin exchange? How could Cosmo possibly have got involved in something like that? Let's assume that we have two parties each wishing to dispose of a distinct individual. Those two parties then make a contract to swap their respective assassination targets. That would then be an assassin exchange. So, to begin with, the British assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Japan, where she kills her target. And then, the Japanese assassin is dispatched as a visiting student to Britain in order to eliminate his target. It certainly does sound like an exchange. Yep. But what on earth is the point? Don't forget, Naruhodo, that the British assassin at least escaped conviction, thanks to diplomatic immunity afforded by consular jurisdiction. Oh yes. Such jurisdiction should be null and void under the terms of the new treaty between our two countries, so the fact that it was brought into play suggests intervention at the very highest levels. The highest levels? These murders were two sides of the same coin, linked not by a common motive but by a contractual agreement. As such, they appeared utterly unrelated, yet in truth, the assassins were complicit in one singular devilish scheme. That disassociation and the safeguard of diplomatic immunity were, I believe, the motive behind this plot. But wait a minute, Sholmes. If this telegram really is describing the exchange of assassins as you're suggesting, it would mean that the Japanese killer's target was never Seishiro Jikoku at all. It would mean Asogi's target was actually Inspector Gregson. What? Cosmo was here for Gregson, so Judge Jikoku wasn't actually the mark. Yes, that's exactly what it would mean. I hold myself personally responsible for failing to keep the inspector safe. Mr. Sholmes. I told him of my fears and implored him to seek a transfer to an overseas position, obviously with the young pickpocket in tow. Yes, Gina. Come to think of it, Inspector Gregson did mention that to us at the Grand Exhibition, that he'd be transferring to Paris police and taking Gina with him. Without informing me, he engaged in one last assignment, it seems, and sadly, it turned out to be his very last. This is too much to take in. Alright everyone, that's quite enough of all that serious talk for one day. Isn't it, Hurley? I mean, look at the time. Ah, quite right, Iris. We must conclude our preparations for tomorrow. What preparations? Well, I think I shall make my way back to my hotel room now. This has certainly been a night to remember. It is a little bit sad, though. I mean, I like the idea of you being my daddy. Because then, Susie would have been my big sister. Sorry, Iris. I know, Iris. I was thinking quite the same thing. Were you? But if somebody like me would be worthy, I would be delighted to become your sister. What? Really? Oh yes, without question. So, you'll teach me all the ways you know to throw Runo to the floor. That's, is there really nothing else you could possibly learn from her? Yes, yes, of course. It would be my pleasure. You don't have to agree quite so readily. Oh, but wait a minute. If Susie's going to be my big sister, you could be my big brother if you want, Runo. Huh? I mean, yes, of course. If you'll have me, I'll gladly be your brother. Well done, Iris. You must always be mindful of feelings. I've raised you so well. As being sensitive is your strong suit. Naturally. Yep. Yeah. That's true. If somebody's got a secret tank, why wouldn't you want to know it? Right. I'm going to work extra hard for tomorrow now. Because it's for my big brother and sister. What is all this talk about preparing for tomorrow? Preparing what? Hee. You'll just have to wait and see. Oh. Good luck in court tomorrow. I'm expecting a sterling performance. I'll do my very best, of course. Alright. On to tomorrow, on to court. So, the overnight break in the trial's proceedings became a crucial turning point, exposing new truths whilst posing new conundrums. That list of 4 names on the telegram in Judge Jikoku's office, and the extraordinary assassination plot in which my best friend had somehow been involved. I felt as though I'd been plunged into an ever greater darkness all of a sudden. But at the same time, I felt sure I would see the light again soon. Because I was lucky enough to have the most wonderful family in the world standing steadfastly behind me. To be continued. Yep, that's the end of the stream. That's to be continued in 37 minutes? Jeez. Obviously, it's a logical ending point. Night. Watch us not hit another one, too. Fourth November, 9:30 a.m., the Old Bailey Courtroom. Before we begin today, I have a brief announcement. My hair just won't cooperate, will it? Whatever. As with the closed trial 10 years ago, some astonishing facts have come to light in these proceedings. The revelation that the well-known Reaper is actually an organization illegally executing its own brand of justice. And the discovery that a respected yard inspector was at its heart until he himself perished in an assassination plot. Well, I say to all members of the judiciary here present on this occasion that we will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Really? Because you were really close to just calling the trial yesterday. Stop at nothing? Says a little over an hour. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Counsels, you will undertake this trial with the resolve to pursue the truth to the bitter end. Resolve, yes, that's my intention. My lord, if I may inquire, the defendant may speak. On what grounds is Kazuma Asogi permitted to continue in his role as prosecutor? That's true. He admitted to taking a job as an assassin. Why are we letting him still stay in the court? It's okay, guys. I wasn't gonna kill the guy, so it's totally fine. He is admitted to colluding with the victim in a plot to assassinate an innocent man. He shouldn't be enjoying the privilege of freedom, let alone be leading the prosecution. I submitted a written petition to Lord Strongheart. I wrote my boss a letter, and the boss said I could stay, requesting that judgment of my transgressions be delayed by 1 day. You did what? In today's proceedings, I intend to expose everything. My whole life, the last 10 years, has all been leading up to this 1 day. Kazuma, whatever the outcome of this trial, I give my word that I will accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate, however severe. And I suggest you prepare yourself for the same, Reaper. Kazuma's bristling with hostility today. I get the distinct impression we're heading into very dangerous territory. Is that really even Kazuma-sama standing before us? As an extreme exception to normal practices, I have granted this prosecutor's request. The defense finds this acceptable, I presume. Yes, my lord. In that case, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. To resume the closed hearing of Barak von Zieks. The defense is ready, my lord. Prosecution is more than ready. Very well then. This preamble has taken long enough. Prosecutor Asogi, begin. As you wish, my lord. The prosecution calls the first witness to the stand. Bring Seishiro Jikoku into the courtroom. Last then, we've reached the final battle. He's putting literally everything on the line now in order to get to the truth. Come on, Ryunosuke. It's time for that steely resolve, because this is going to test it to the limit. I'm sure I'm going to get none of these answers wrong, ever. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court. Ah, so it was you who issued this, was it? Your subpoena, I did what was necessary. Ha ha ha. Well, look what the young man has become. I didn't think I'd see the day when you'd take that tone with me, I must say. The witness will ensure his responses are pertinent to the questions asked. My name is Seishiro Jikoku, a Supreme Court judge from the Empire of Japan. 16 years ago, this man came to London as a visiting student. 6 years later, he returned to Japan. As well as presiding over the Supreme Court, he is also currently Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs. I am of course fully aware of Mr. Jikoku and his preeminent roles. I invited him personally to the International Forensic Science Symposium as a representative of his country. I hear he also played a key role in the conclusion of the Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation. Ah, it was a great honor to be involved in the negotiations. I put my all into that treaty. Judge Jikoku, I must ask. Well, I never fancied the young murdering student turning up here of all places. You acquitted me yourself, and now I'm a practicing defense lawyer. Yes, and full of self-importance like your friend across the courtroom, I see. You came here to London by invitation to the International Forensic Science Symposium. But then, without informing anyone of your plans, you took flight to France. Took flight? I'd have to object to that turn of phrase. Then explain yourself. What exactly were the circumstances? Well, I was somewhat expecting this. And I'm sorry to say... Excuse me. I declined to comment. What? Leaving the country prematurely when I was an invited guest may be questionable etiquette. My decision is unrelated to this case. I can't be bound to testify. Unrelated, you say? I appreciate that a respected police inspector has been killed, for which I offer my condolences. However, being an alien, I'd obviously never met the man, nor do I know the first thing about him. As such, I'm in no position to testify. It's as simple as that. So you would run from all this? I beg your pardon. This case is more far-reaching than the murder of Inspector Gregson. It has ties to another murder, a case that was tried in Japan almost a year ago now. A year ago in Japan, the murder of Dr. John H. Wilson. Right, and you, Judge Shikoku, are the heart of both cases. The defense has evidence to prove it. Well, Ryunosuke, I see from the look in your eyes that you're resolved to carry this through to the very end, too. Let's see your evidence, then. What proof do you have that Seishiro Jikoku is involved in this case? That's the only one that it can't be, right? It's gotta be that.
Take that!
Paper. This is a telegram detailing a communication sent between Britain and Japan approximately 1 year ago. The communication contained 4 names: K. Asogi, A. Shin, T. Gregson, and J. Wilson. You little. Where did you get that? In Tokyo. From your office, Judge Shikoku. What? How on earth did you? What's this all about? Why is my name on that list? This list of 4 names follows a certain pattern. T. Gregson and J. Wilson are the names of victims. K. Asogi and A. Shin are the names of assassins. No. A year ago in Tokyo, Dr. John H. Wilson's life was taken in a Western-style restaurant in the capital. The culprit was found to be a visiting student who went by the name of Josiah Brent, but her real name was Asa Shin, a professional killer sent on a mission to kill from Great Britain. A. Shin and her victim J. Wilson. And the murder that just took place here in London was the counterpart to that crime. An assassin sent from Japan, also a visiting student, Kazuma Asogi, whose victim was the British police inspector, Tobias Gregson. K. Asogi and T. Gregson. One assassin from each country to kill a target residing in the other. What exactly is the defense suggesting? These 2 cases of murder, one that took place in Britain and one in Japan, were masterminded by a pair of individuals from each country as a form of assassin exchange, and the telegram the defense has acquired is proof of this international contract to kill. What? The telegram was found in your office, Judge Shikoku. In other words, the mastermind in Japan was you. Judge Shikoku, what is this all about? And you, Kazuma, you lied. During yesterday's proceedings, you acknowledged that you'd accepted the assassination mission. But the mark wasn't Judge Shikoku at all. It was T. Gregson, Detective Inspector of Scotland Yard, as shown by the name of the killing contract. Very impressive, Ryunosuke. But actually, I didn't lie. The name of the target I was ordered to kill never passed my lips yesterday. The idea that Seishiro Jikoku was the mark came entirely from you. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell the truth. You're okay. Cool. Awesome cool. You're so smart. You deliberately avoided saying a name? The defense claims these 4 names indicate some sort of international assassin exchange. I'm sure I speak for all present when I say that the very idea seems utterly absurd. Well, Mr. Jikoku, what do you have to say for yourself? Hey look, at least it's a less mean bot, unlike the Monster Hunter ones. Didn't know how to tell the truth was in English. Yeah, clearly, obviously, duh. His silence only goes to prove his guilt. There's another very important point that this new development brings to light. There's now a distinct possibility that the scene of Inspector Gregson's actual murder was in the witness's cabin aboard the SS Grouse. Judge Shikoku, you have to testify now. To refuse would put you in contempt of court. Remove the space. What? Oh, yeah. No, sorry. I don't even actually read the message. Yeah, like, it's so far removed from somebody, like, accidentally clicking a link. Like, yeah. Wink. Yeah. Yeah. So stupid. There's no need for quite such a vicious stare, young man. Very well, then. As a parting gift to you all, I'll tell you everything I know. Seems this Japanese gentleman has information that the court must hear. About the alleged assassin exchange and the events of the night of the 31st October. Present your formal testimony now. As you wish, my lord. Alright, witness testimony. The assassin exchange. It's true that Kazuma Asogi was assigned the assassination mission 1 year ago now. The target was Inspector T. Gregson. That was a condition of the British study tour. However, in the end, something happened that meant the young man was unable to carry out his mission. On the evening in question, a member of the crew was on duty outside my cabin at all times. If there had been a shot fired, the crewman would have heard it. So clearly, I can't be involved. There was a bullet hole in your freaking room. Swearing an oath mean nothing to anyone in these games? I mean, no. Murderer is gonna lie. It's just how it is. So you admitted then, as this communication suggests, there really was an assassin exchange agreement between Britain and Japan. A political endeavor at the highest levels, not something I can discuss here. To use such a worthy practice as foreign study to coerce somebody to commit murder. It's the most appalling thing I've ever heard. Appalling? Well, it's easy to judge. Is it? Then why did you go to school for all this time? Sick burp, I know. Pardon? Asogi had a reason for taking his sword to that British inspector, you know. What? Which is why he accepted the mission in the first place. Isn't that right, Counsel? Kazuma-sama. Judge Shikoku, if you are the mastermind behind this operation in Japan, then tell the court the identity of your counterpart in Britain. He ain't gonna, because he is definitely sitting on top of the judge's seat here. Because that's just, it's the only logical thing. If the person was communicating with the highest judge in the court of law in Japan, then the person he'd be communicating with would be the highest judge of the court of law in Britain. Why would they deal with somebody who's lesser than that? So no, he's not going to identify that person here. I'm not obliged to divulge that information. As I said yesterday, I've killed nobody. I freely admit that I accepted the mission, but on the night that the plan was to be executed, I backed out. In short, this assassin exchange that the defense has identified is unrelated to the events of this case. Sure, our governments conspired to murder 2 individuals. Conspired at the highest level of the judicial government to send exchange students to murder people. And yeah, sure, that happened. And not only that, one side was utterly successful, and the other side is the case we're on trial for here. The person who was supposed to be assassinated on a given night by a given person is now dead. Definitively. Gregson dead. So, you mean to tell me this is unrelated to the case? Are you high? The crucial point is this. Your police inspector can't have perished aboard that steamship in Dunkirk, because if he'd been shot in the cabin, it's inconceivable that a member of the crew wouldn't have heard it, unless you paid all the members of the crew off because you have a lot of money because you're an influential judge who gets paid a lot. And people like money a whole damn lot. That's right. Gregson was killed after returning to London, in the room on Fresno Street. And the perpetrator of the crime was the Reaper, Barak von Zieks. The prosecution's accusation remains unchanged. To think that a seemingly innocent foreign exchange program was a facade for such Machiavellian dealings. Yeah, I'm sure you had no idea, Strongheart. I'm sure you, the highest person in the court of the land here in Britain, had no idea at all. Clearly it is a plot only a government minister and high-ranking judge, such as the witness, could hope to execute. Well, I seem to recall that it was someone on the British side who controlled everything. Be that as it may, is it not the place of this court to pursue this villainous assassin exchange plot? We are concerned only with the tangible events pertaining to the murder of Inspector Gregson. Is the defense clear on that point, counsel? Don't dig deeper into this assassin exchange, because you'll find me. We're not talking about me, we're talking about Gregson, the person I wanted dead. Yes, my lord. I'll keep that in mind as I cross-examine the witness. Sure, there's no... I mean, considering he has final say in this whole trial, I'm sure nothing bad will come from that. Well, let's say...
Hold it!
A year ago, when Cosmo was still in Japan, then. Correct. It was at that examination center for applicants for the study tour that I approached him. Never forget it. I remember exactly what you said. You just came out and asked me, forthright, if I'd consider traveling to Britain on an assassination mission. Surely not. Thought it was a joke at first, of course, but then it was made clear to me that if I didn't accept, I wouldn't be considered for the study tour. So you agreed to it just for that? I mean, I know how much you wanted to study in England, but assassination? The Empire of Japan had accepted a proposal from the British Empire at the time, an agreement to send a student from each country to the others to deepen cultural understanding and friendship, and kill people. But behind the scenes, the chosen students were to be given assassination missions. I had no choice but to accept the proposal that originated from my British counterpart. Why? Why didn't you expose the plot here and then? Oh, there and then. Britain acknowledges no part in these alleged misbegotten dealings. Yeah, of course you... So we have the mastermind, the guy who's been puppeted, and the actual assassin as the only other people in this courtroom with us right now, barring, the crowd. Cool! I'm sure there's no bias here. I'm sure there's none whatsoever. I advise you not to make spurious allegations, Foreign Minister Jikoku. As a witness, I am bound to tell the truth, my lord. Anyway, I picked a Sogi and explained the details of the plan to him. Why Cosmo? Why did you pick him as the assassin? He was the most capable of all the applicants, and in addition, I knew his desire to travel to Britain was very strong. In fact, it was almost more than a desire. It was his whole purpose in life. Yes, as his best friend, I can certainly attest to that. The way he threw himself into his studies, the way he pursued becoming qualified as a lawyer. It was all ultimately for that one single goal of being accepted on a study tour to Britain. And of course, we know the reason behind that. He was determined to find out for himself the truth about his father, Genshin Asogi. There's nothing I wouldn't have done to get here. But be that agreeing to assume the role of an assassin or betraying people's trust. Well, you certainly did a fine job of betraying my Nasogi. But why was Inspector Gregson the target? I have no idea. Those were the orders from Britain. I was in no position to question them. You have no idea? Really? I find that hard to believe. Oh, do you? Judge Jikoku was once a visiting student here in Britain himself, of course. Perhaps he has some connection with Inspector Gregson from that time. The defense really ought to catch up. With what? With the fact that the assassin exchange has absolutely nothing to do with the case under scrutiny here. Yes, I've already admitted to recruiting Isogi. Yep. But the young man was unable to carry out his mission. I presume you're referring to the incident that occurred during Cosmo's passage to Britain in January. The awful tragedy that took place in the steamship. So Strongheart wanted Gregson dead because Strongheart was clearly letting a whole bunch of criminals go just because, you know, they paid their way through the system, they bribed everyone, and, you know, Gregson was helping. It was part of the group labeled the Reaper that was finding them and actually punishing them for their actual wrong deeds instead of letting them get away scot-free by, you know, having more money than everyone. So that's why they wanted Gregson dead, presumably. Word arrived at the ministry some 2 weeks after the ship's departure from our shores. The visiting students had been killed, but his body had somehow gone missing in Hong Kong. The news was wired to me from a detective I placed on the ship to accompany the assassin. Obviously, Cosmo didn't actually die at all. But he did lose his memory, including all details about his special mission. Did you not consider dispatching another assassin at that point? That wasn't possible, simply because that black-clad young student over there had already put himself forward as Isogi's replacement. There was no way to stop him from reaching Britain. Ah! My hands were completely tied. So Mr. Sholmes' strategy worked perfectly. He predicted everything that would happen. Months later, my memory returned, but I'd never intended to go through with the assassination mission anyway. So you were playing me right from the outset, were you? Is that it? I'd sooner be guilty of that crime than taking someone else's life. I was prepared to do whatever I had to in order to get myself here to Britain. This line of questioning has gone on long enough. All the court should be concerned about in the testimony given by this witness are details relating to his relationship with Inspector Gregson and the victim's murderer. In that case, as I've already made perfectly clear, I had no connection to the man or his death. Excuse me. And you have some means of substantiating this plea. We already know you bribed the crew, though. Outside your cabin in the first-class area of the SS Grouse, you mean? Yes, that's right. Not least because there was a murder of a student passenger earlier in the year, I mentioned. The liner operators have taken posting a crewman outside every first-class cabin door. I can confirm the presence of the crewman guard myself. What do you mean? Because I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk that night. I witnessed it with my own eyes. There was a well-built crewman standing guard directly in front of the door to the witness's cabin. At that particular time, of course, I'd gone to the ship's dining room for dinner. The inspector and I asked the crewman to allow us into the cabin, where we waited for Judge Jikoku's return. Suppose the Inspector Gregson was there in his capacity as the Reaper. He was intending to take the witnesses to life. Exactly. As I've said numerous times now, I had no intention of killing anyone. So, the crewman let 2 potential assassins into the cabin he was supposed to be guarding. Not the most convincing of sentries, really. In truth, those were my thoughts too. But anyway, I stayed to talk with Inspector Gregson for a short while. Then I left him there and made my way off the ship alone. Was the guard still at the door when he went? Yes, he glared at me as I walked past. You see, that proves it. I mean, the guard was there. Do we even have... That's obviously what we're going to present here, but we gotta go through the motions. Crewman who was standing directly outside your cabin door, you mean? That's right. A muscular man with a permanent grim expression on his face. He didn't once move from that spot. To be honest, I thought he was a miserable fellow. But as that happens, he's a vital witness now. There's no doubt that Gregson was killed by a gunshot. And it's inconceivable that a crewman standing just outside the cabin door wouldn't have heard that. But wait, what about the ship's enormous steam engines? The noise of them could have drowned out the sound of the gun being fired. Sadly, I'm a judicial assistant. That won't wash. Oh. You will recall that my cabin was in the first-class area of the ship, which is also, of course, the quietest. Don't imagine for a moment that it's anything like the steel rage where the judicial assistants go. I didn't mean... But a hole like that made by a bullet was found in your cabin, Judge Shikoku. That's compelling evidence that a gun was fired in there. What's that? A bullet hole? Oh yes, you're talking about what the detective uncovered on the wall yesterday, I presume. That was obviously a rotten panel eaten up by woodworm. No doubt he didn't find an actual bullet. Ugh, that's the hole in this argument. Sadly, I was unable to arrange for the crewman to be brought back to Britain with me. But obviously, if a gun had been fired in my cabin on the night in question, as the defense implies, I would have been arrested on the spot, and would never have made it to Britain in the first place. Very true. The witness's logic is sound, says the guy colluding with the witness. Since no gunshot was heard from the witness's cabin on the night in question, we must assume that the witness is telling the truth. Glad you've seen sense, my lord. Well, I know Cosmo's already admitted to taking on this incredible assassination plot, but even so, hearing it confirmed by somebody else is still a real shock. It's unforgivable, using Cosmo-sama's feelings to manipulate him into agreeing to such a despicable plan. But I think Cosmo manipulated Judge Shikoku too. He completely double-crossed him. Oh dear, it's hard not to see that as a stroke of brilliance on Cosmo-sama's part. One way or another, though, Gregson ended up dead. I really think that the murder must have happened aboard that steamship. So you mean, Judge Shikoku must be lying? No. I know I shouldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment, but you must destroy him, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay. I mean, you know. Gotta be the evacuation plan.
Objection!
Yeah. Yes, as the court has heard, there was a crewman posted outside Judge Shikoku's cabin. However, we can be sure that, contrary to the witness's claim, the guard wasn't there at all times. What? I have here a notice of a particular event that was scheduled to take place aboard the steamship on the 31st. What? Where did you get that? It's evidence gathered by Mr. Herlock Sholmes. You were acquitted yesterday, right? If you remember. Herlock Sholmes again. According to this itinerary, after leaving the port of Dunkirk at exactly 10 p.m. for a period of 20 minutes, All crewmen of the SS Grouse were to gather on deck for an evacuation drill. All crewmen were away from their posts. And during that 20-minute interval, of course, any gunshots emanating from your cabin would have been heard by no one. In summary, Judge Jikoku, you had ample opportunity to commit the crime.
Objection!
Oh, you would. A 20-minute window of opportunity. That's an excellent find, Ryunosuke. But it amounts to nothing. Why? Because the witness clearly stated in his testimony that no incident occurred in his cabin, unless you have some decisive evidence that can show his testimony to be false. The accusation is nothing more than conjecture. Very true. Well, counsel. Inspector Gregson was killed in Judge Jikoku's cabin that night. I'm certain of it. Because the defense has the evidence to prove it. You will present the evidence for the defense at once, counsel. What proof do you have that the victim's life was taken in Jikoku's cabin on the 31st October? It's gotta be that. It has to be. It has to be. Saving anyway, but it has to be.
Take that!
Oh, okay. Judge Jikoku, this was found in your cabin yesterday. What is that? The crown of a pocket watch. A pocket watch. And if you'll observe, the victim's pocket watch, which we know he treasured, is missing precisely that part. It can't be. Moreover, this crown is a perfect fit in the spindle protruding from the victim's watch. Now, the fact that this was retrieved from Judge Jikoku's cabin tells us that the victim's watch almost certainly broke there. In other words, the victim was killed on the 31st during the 20-minute evacuation drill, in the cabin occupied by you, Judge Jikoku. Well, you're razor sharp, aren't you, you young murderer? Acquitted. We didn't murder
Objection.
anyone. Expertly maneuvered, Ryunosuke. And your argument sounds entirely plausible. At first. But rather like this pocket watch, it's full of cracks. What? And I believe Judge Jikoku feels the same way. I was wrong to acquit you earlier in the year. Sorry? If I'd known that it would result in anyone having to listen to this drivel, I would have declared you guilty just to spare the world your ridiculous bombast. Jeez, dude! I think it's clear that the witness will have to give further testimony. When you hear what actually happened in my cabin that night, you'll notice the pitfall into which you stumbled. Prior to your renewed testimony, I would also like to clarify one point. The fact that this part of the victim's watch was discovered in your cabin means that you acknowledge he was there, I presume. Yes, I do. Very well then. You may proceed to give your formal testimony about what exactly happened in your cabin aboard the ship on the evening of the 31st October. Except he's already lied about things. Why? Again, the why is answered by everyone's involved, but like, come on, man. Of course, as a man of the law, I have no intention of obstructing justice. Yeah, sure, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, No intention. The events in the cabin. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. When I walked through the door, a mustachioed Englishman was there, foolishly waving a gun at me. I soon took care of him with an Ippon Seo throw. He couldn't wait to run away after that. Imagine his watch was broken when I threw him over my shoulder. It has nothing to do with his murder. The inspector was clearly killed having returned to Britain because his body was found in London. Ippon Seo. A common jujitsu martial arts technique in my country. I was careful not to use too much force, but the man obviously landed too heavy for his watch to take. So, Ryunosuke Naruhodo, I imagine you can see the flaw in your logic now, can't you? What? The fact that the pocket watch was broken in the witness's cabin in no way proves that the victim's murder took place there. I guess it proves he was there, but not necessarily proves that he died there. I have no doubt the inspector intended to kill me, but he didn't manage to pull the trigger. Yes, because he was merely the tactician, not the Reaper's hand of death. Well, the testimony appears to make perfect sense as far as I can tell. Yeah, it would to you, wouldn't it? Somebody who's definitely not lying about anything or colluding with anyone. Let me express my deep gratitude for your understanding, my lord. This testimony holds. Judge Jikoku will be deemed to have no involvement in the case. Well, counsel, I really see no reason for wasting precious court time here on a cross-examination. I see reason to cross-examine the witness. He's already lied before, why wouldn't he lie now? Why wouldn't we at least try to find out? Sir? Sir? Sorry, I was not actually drinking a lot today, so now I'm really thirsty. I should have kept up with it throughout the day, but I didn't. Sorry, my lord. The defense has a right to cross-examine, and I don't intend to squander that. You're an embarrassment to your countrymen, not knowing when you're beaten. Damn. In that case, proceed, Mr. Naruhodo. Cross-examination. The events in the cabin. I had a guest waiting for me when I returned to my cabin after finishing my evening meal in the dining room. Oh, wait, okay. So yeah, we read all this. This is cross-examination.
Hold it!
Because the so-called guard posted at your cabin door had just let your killer pass, you mean? Apparently, Gregson told the crewman he was a police inspector, which was the truth, of course. He wouldn't have had his identification with him, though. He had his trench coat and mustache, not to mention the bag of chips. I imagine the crewman was convinced. I guess that's all it takes. Sure. But the man accompanying him would have had 2 swords slung around his waist. You mean me? Who else? Yes, that's true. He would have hoped the sight of a few swords might have set off alarm bells in the guard's head. Point is, I left the cabin before its occupant returned, and I immediately disembarked the ship. Certainly, all I can tell you is that only the inspector was waiting for me when I arrived back in my cabin. Excuse me. And you entered without any inkling of suspicion. That's right, none whatsoever. Sure, definitely none whatsoever.
Hold it!
Sure, he's telling all the truth about how things went down, right? Obviously, you're talking about Inspector Gregson. Yes, though at the time I didn't know the man's name. And there was no time for introductions. I value my life over manners. By which you mean that the inspector was there to assassinate you, I suppose. That was certainly the impression given by the gun pointing in my direction. But I have never seen the muzzle of a revolver shake about so much in all my life. Anyone would think that the man had never shot somebody before. Believe it or not, most of us haven't. Anyway, that was no time to call for the help of the crewman at the door, so I dealt with the man myself. Dealt with him yourself? After all.
Hold it!
Even though the man had a gun, that was very brave, a very brave move, wasn't it? My Ipanseo is far faster than a bullet, I can assure you. That's... I mean, okay. Good to know, but jeez. But surely all that commotion caused the crewman to come in, didn't it? Yes, of course. He burst in immediately without knocking. The inspector hurled himself at the stocky fellow and just managed to slip past to make an escape. The outstanding guard does it again. Luckily, there aren't many situations I can't get out of using a quick Ipanseo throw.
Hold it!
The crown snapped off and the glass covering the face of the watch was cracked. Preferable to the man's head being pulled off his spine, or a spine cracking, wouldn't you say? Not that the man was spared for long. A bullet to the chest soon saw to that. But the point is, the broken pocket watch doesn't prove that a murder took place. Absolutely not. All the watch proves is the power of my jujitsu throw. Whatever you say, it doesn't quite ring true that no shot was fired in that cabin, because there was an obvious bullet hole in the wall. What are you talking about? That's what the star of your lowbrow detective stories told you, is it? Well, I don't care for such fiction. Haven't you worked it out yet, you little stripling? No murder took place in my cabin. Sure. I definitely believe that. Except not at all.
Hold it!
There's no evidence that proves the victim ever returned to London alive. Just take a moment. Think that idea of yours through now, stripling. What? If the inspector was killed on the steamship in France, how on earth could he have gotten back to Britain? When people die, the bodies remain at that same spot. It's the devil of a thing. Unless people move it! Well, then obviously the culprit must have moved the body. How exactly? Carrying a corpse off a ship in your arms would raise a few eyebrows at least, don't you think? Well, yes, that's true, but... all passenger luggage is inspected when it is unloaded from arriving vessels. I would like to think the border police would query the corpse of an English gentleman as hand luggage. If the murder had taken place aboard the ship, you would imagine the body would have been disposed of at sea. There would be no sense in risking being caught by attempting to transport the body back to Britain. Unless you're already working with way higher powers that could get you off from any type of allegations or jail time. On top of the fact that, this really lets you set up other people for the crime. If the body gets found at sea, you have no excuse. Body gets found back in London, you're like, we weren't even there. Let's kill that idea then. But perhaps not. Mr. Sato. We've heard that the first-class passengers were under constant scrutiny by the crewmen posted to guard them, which would mean that the culprit had no opportunity to dispose of the body in the sea. Yes, that's true. So transporting the body to Britain may have been the only viable alternative. Dear me, you really are new to this, aren't you? Thought I'd been perfectly clear. It seems I'm going to have to explain it in words you can understand. Think I ought to alter my testimony. With your consent, of course, my lord. I have no objections. State your amended testimony now. There's no possible way I could have transported the victim's corpse back to Bryn. Damn it. We know there is. We know it's his trunk, too. We don't have anything in evidence that points to that. Should definitely press him on the...
Hold it!
Yeah, see what he's gonna say first. There's an idea. Think about it, Stripling. All passengers and crew disembarked at the same time and passed through the same checks at the border. The symposium guests were then driven straight to the hotel in carriages organized by the ministry. And we met you as soon as you arrived at the hotel. So you did. Well then, remind me, did I have a corpse over my shoulder at the time? Oh, so it's going to be the photo then. What? No! So we're in agreement then. I couldn't possibly have brought in the inspector's body back to Britain. Thus, of course, they've developed some clever device these days to instantly move things from A to B. Maybe you should say that. Mr. Hairbrain's invention didn't actually work, if you remember, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, of course. The defense has become unusually quiet, I notice. Yes, because there's really nothing more to say. So that's his story. Well, I suppose if you think about it, whenever you drop a teacup in the office and it breaks, we don't say, Mr. Naruhodo must have been murdered there, do we? Is that a veiled threat based about what might happen to me if I break another one? And the fact is that Inspector Gregson's body was found in the little room on Fresno Street. He really was killed in Judge Shikoku's cabin. The body would have to have been moved somehow, obviously. Running a dead body over a country border, that would be impossible for a majority of people. So there must have been some special circumstance that made it possible for the culprit then. That could be a vital realization, I think, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, so it's got to be the appended testimony. Yeah, it's right there. Jeez, so we were right next to his body at the time. That's messed up. It's gotta be the picture. Gotta be the picture. Literally shows it in the picture. There's no possible way you could have moved Inspector Gregson's body, you say. He does say. I say he's wrong. I would say the opposite is true. And what's that supposed to mean? Far from being impossible for you to do, the transporting of Inspector Gregson's body back to Britain is something only you could do. What are you talking about, Ryunosuke? As well as being a judge, Mr. Jikoku is also Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, which means he's exempt from having his luggage searched when he enters the country. We learned that when we first met you upon your arrival in London. I presume you recall this, Judge Shikoku. It's a photograph we took in the foyer of the hotel to mark the occasion. As the court will note, you have with you your large travel trunk. Large enough, in fact, to have a corpse inside. Mr. Naruhodo, surely you're not suggesting... Afraid I am, yes. 3 days ago, when we were chatting innocently with the new arrivals from Japan in the hotel, the body of Inspector Gregson was just meters away from us, inside Judge Jikoku's trunk. You know, what do you got to say now? Order, order, order in the court. I'm skeptical, counsel, that a grown man's body could fit inside even the largest travel trunk. It could. Because I happen to know that the witness himself, a man of considerable size, fits inside this trunk. And verifying that would be extremely simple, wouldn't it, Judge Shikoku? But inside his trunk, how horrifying. And after we'd spoken with you at the Great Waterloo Hotel, you had the opportunity to visit at the apparent scene on Fresno Street, taking your trunk with you in a cab to deposit the inspector's body. I don't have to listen to this nonsense. Dr. Gori, the coroner who examined the body, has confirmed the possibility. She's acknowledged there are signs that steps may have been taken to disguise the true time of death. The onset of the body's decomposition could have been delayed by storing it in a refrigerator. Counsel, as I remember explaining yesterday, refrigerators of the requisite size are few and far between. Yes, well, I'm sure they are. But one place they're certainly found is on large ocean liners. Such ships are equipped with electrically refrigerated cold rooms to keep food fresh on their long sea voyages, and the SS Grouse is no exception. Professor Mikotoba told me about it only yesterday. Well, Judge Shikoku? However much you prolong this debate, you can't eliminate the truth. All the evidence points to you being the killer. Smug bastard. Well, this is all very heartening. I can see that it was a wise move, letting Asogi and you embark on this study tour. What are you talking about now? Logical reasoning, of course. All court proceedings will be built on logical reasoning in the new century. And I can see that you've both laid firm foundations for that already. Judge Shikoku, please stop diverting attention from the issue at hand. The defense has made an accusation against you. How do you respond? Respond? There's really no need for me to respond, is there? Why ever not? Because before you can even begin to answer the question of when the victim was killed, you must first establish one key fact. Where was the victim killed? It's quite logical. The actual scene of the crime. Prosecution's stance is unaltered. The killing took place on Fresno Street when the gunshot was heard. As the accused, Barak von Sieg shot the victim at point-blank range. Since no tangible evidence exists to disprove the prosecution's claim at this time, the defense's deductions amount to little more than an elaborate fairy tale. I'm afraid that's how the logical reasoning of the British are known for really works, young stripling. The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. I'm afraid it's the prosecution's claim. That's the only fairy tale here. How can you say that? Quite simply, because that claim directly contradicts a certain piece of evidence in our possession. Very tantalizing, counsel. I think you'd better explain yourself to the court, don't you? The prosecution claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. This evidence clearly contradicts... Was it the autopsy? Victim was shot in the chest at close range from the front, resulting in instant death. Oh, okay. Bullet exited the body from behind. Cool. So he did actually instantly die, says the coroner. It's just the location. So how do we prove it wasn't there? The watch seems very likely. But then they just might bring up the, you know, the scam. I want to say it's the watch, but Shikoku has already stated that the watch broke when he threw him with Jujutsu, so that's probably not it, actually. Let's save again. But I'm not gonna shotgun approach hit or anything. I just don't want to lose any HP. If I can help it. Prosecutor claims that Inspector Gregson died instantly when he was shot at the scene on Fresno Street. What do we have that proves that's contradicts that? Okay. No. 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 Definitely not. No. Gun. Have we actually... I don't know if we actually did all the stuff here. That revolver, that's standard issue for members of the judiciary then. Yes. And when I asked about whether records are kept about who they're issued to, I was told that for the past 5 years, they've been engraved with a unique serial number. Oh. But as far as I can tell, there's nothing like that on this gun. Which tells us that it must have been issued longer ago than that. Okay. So it's a gun that was issued long... Okay, so I must have looked at it. I guess I just missed that bit. That doesn't disprove anything. That doesn't disprove anything. Oh. Special firecracker, definitely not the firecracker. Though, you know, at the same time, I feel like... Have you had an idea, Mr. Naruhodo? You're staring at the end of the string of fireworks. Sorry, it's just that it's the Venus Special. I was wondering, what 600 pence worth of fireworks would sound like? Shall we find out? What? But what? She said it could blow up the courtroom. Alright, that was a fairly sizable bang. Now here's the still ringing, Mr. Naruhodo. It sounded almost exactly like... Okay, yeah. So that was just that. What a crap. Straight. I don't know. Really don't. Telegram's not it. Small component. Again, small component in the watch. He was just like, yeah, sure, okay, I just tossed him, so it's fine. I didn't kill him. Evacuation doesn't help. I feel like the trunk with the cut in it, but that doesn't really prove anything. The cut happened the night before, so it doesn't mean he couldn't have survived that and gotten shot and died instantly there. Damn it. Oh, I forgot. The watch wasn't just broken, it was the winding of it. Maybe it is the watch. I'm going to say they're going to just toss it out, but I think it's the watch.
Take that!
Nope. Okay. Yep. Bad. Got it. It's not the watch. Yeah, got you. Be penalized. We know he was moved. Yeah, I get you. Can it be the picture? The picture of his body curled up? Because, like, with what we know now, it definitely applies he was stuffed in a trunk. But I don't know if that's enough.
Take that!
It is the picture. Damn it. Okay, cool. I was like, the picture isn't it? It's not the picture. A photograph of the victim in the very location you claim he wasn't killed. Yes, but the point is the posture of the body itself. If Inspector Gregson had been shot there in that room, it's out of the question that his body would have been curled up in a ball like that. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but your logic is flawed. He could easily have adopted that fetal position due to the pain of the shot, which subsequently proved fatal. Oh yeah, because he died instantly. Sorry to disappoint you, Judge Shikoku, but it's your logic that is flawed. What? According to this autopsy report, the victim died instantly. He would have felt no pain, much less have been able to draw himself into that position. Which begs the question of why the victim's body is curled up in that way. Though the answer should be abundantly clear by now. You're suggesting. The inspector's body took on that posture ahead of its arrival in Fresno Street, before it was coldly turned out on the floor, from the inside of a large travel trunk. No, you're quite right. The shape of the body looks exactly as if it had been kept in a confined space. Judge Shikoku, I present your trunk for examination. I believe it's very possible that it will contain traces of the victim's blood. Ugh. Present my trunk. I refuse. What? On what grounds? I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs from the Empire of Japan. I shouldn't have to put up with this treatment just because of some stripling's baseless accusations. In other words, Judge Shikoku, there is blood in your trunk. I decline to answer that. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have privileges. At this moment, you're not a government minister. You are a witness in a trial in Britain's highest court. I don't care who you are or what your status outside of this courtroom might be. You will not withhold information. Nothing is more important than the truth. Ugh. Yeah, tell him, point at him. Order in the court. Well, Mr. Shikoku, what's it to be? You can't be serious. You did it? Have you no shame at all, Kazuma Sogi? What? Very well, I admit it. I did bring the inspector's body into the country. Inside my trunk, exactly as postulated by the defense. What? You? Dear God, outrageous. So we can immediately let Baron von Zieks go, right? Like immediately. Absolutely. Because we have absolute evidence that on the night in question, he was at a gentleman's bar. So it's definitely not him. It's 100% not him. There's no way you could, at this rate, we're just aiming for the truth, but we can let him go home, right? So it was you. You admit to Inspector... No, I admit to nothing more than what I've said. Of killing the man, I certainly have no recollection. What on earth is that cryptic statement supposed to mean? I merely disposed of the inspector's body, which was left in my cabin, in order to avoid unwanted attention. As the judicial assistant over there pointed out, I had no chance to throw it into the ocean. So, I decided my only option was to bring it into Britain with me and dispose of it somewhere else. You can't still deny it! If you didn't do it, then who on earth did kill the man? As you know, there was one other person in my cabin that night. He had the opportunity. And moreover, he'd already accepted a mission to take the inspector's life. Oh. That's right. Who else could it have been? It was you, Kazuma Asogi. You. Man, we got a hell of a blame game going on here. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's still got a bunch of them at his house, but I never thought you'd stoop to this, Seishiro Jigoku. You've taken the words straight out of my mouth. Prosecutor Kazuma Asogi. You thought by leaving the body in my cabin you could pin the crime on me, did you? Well, the prosecution counsel has already admitted to visiting the witness's cabin on the night in question. Yes, on an assassination mission no less. You wouldn't. So, what do you make of that, young stripling? You've heard my testimony now, and that's all I have to say on the matter. I will admit to nothing more. I don't believe this. Excuse me. Counsel for the defense. What is your position now? The court awaits your response to the witness's assertion. The assertion that on the night in question, the victim's assailant was in fact Mr. Kazuma Asogi. This isn't the dead end it seems to be. The answer's right in front of me. Comes down to Jikoku or Kazuma. Both of them had the opportunity to kill Gregson, but only one of them did it. And I'm just a step away from proving who. I don't know how. Very well, the defense is ready to respond to the assertion and put forward assertion put forward by Judge Jikoku. The idea that the victim's murder could have been committed by Prosecutor Asogi is... I mean, the problem is... with the sword in the trunk... That's tricky. Because that's evidence that he did take a swing. But, I mean, they're both people who have constantly lied to us. Why? But also, he was definitely shot. Like, he was shot. Hard stop. No sword was involved in his killing. Do we have evidence of that? So, his office, small machine part. Like, on paper, it looks like it. It's gotta be the gun, right? I'm sure they'd make some sort of argument if they got into a spat and he grabbed his gun and fired it. Also, this was found at the scene of the crime on Fresno Street, so it's probably not even the actual murder weapon. Standard issue firearms for members of the judiciary. shotgunning, son? Not yet, no. Just thinking hard. I've lost one clip, but then I immediately was like, oh, okay, this is the answer. For the last one. I don't think that has anything further in it right now. I mean, there's definitely blood on it and the sword thing, but I don't think those point... Damn it. Like, the thing is, I'm gonna say he couldn't have done it. However, how do we prove that when they go, cool, prove it? But I also don't have any evidence that he did. Well, because it's not in the thing, but like, we know this is a judiciary weapon, but we know that it's more than 5 years old. It's impossible. He didn't kill him. Don't ask me how to prove it yet. Judge Shikoku, let me remind you of something you said only a few minutes ago. You claimed that logical reasoning is the future of the judicial process. It is, no question. Well, logical reasoning can prove something here. Namely, that it would have been impossible for Prosecutor Asogi to commit the crime. What? The court will only accept an argument that's supported by compelling evidence, unless it's an argument made by literally anyone other than you. So present what you have, counsel. What proof is there that allegedly demonstrates the impossibility of Prosecutor Asogi's involvement? Crapzilla, I don't know. It's not the telegram. I'm like 90% sure it's not this, but I guess we never actually looked at it, did we? It's also part of Inspector Gregson's pocket watch is found inside the trunk. That's right, which cannot possibly be denied is extremely significant. What do you call it again? This small round piece of the watch? The crown. Pocket watch is quite useless without it. Yes, that's right. The crown. What a very grand name for such a tiny part. That's exactly what we said the last time we discussed it, Mr. Naruto. Okay, so there's nothing else here. What I thought it was that. Evacuation drill. No. The thing is, we know he wasn't killed by the sword, so the sword doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Clint doesn't matter right now. Passport. That doesn't help us, but it doesn't hurt us. Not the trunk, because we know he didn't get killed by a sword slash, so it's not the trunk. The Asogi papers, no. It's not the photograph. He didn't have his identification on him because it was in... No. Where? What's his name had it? Yeah, it wasn't in the trunk. That was in the trunk. Pocket watch. I don't think that's it. We'll put the crown on it? Small part of Inspector X's pocket watch. Trunk. Okay, significant indeed. Okay. Literally just the exact same thing. The crown. Okay. Literally the same gosh dang thing. So I don't think the watch is it. No other firecrackers. Notice board. I don't think that helps us in any way. Not with this. The autopsy, maybe. I think it's the gun, most likely. It's gotta be the gun. But it doesn't say in the description that little bit about the serial numbers and it having to be more than 5 years old. They didn't update the description at that point. It's gotta be the gun. It's the only thing.
Take that!
Well, okay. Damn it, what the hell is it? I know that was a slight stretch, but like not that much. Yeah, don't upset Susato. All the time, so as long as the guard was there, it would have been impossible to fire a shot without it being heard. Okay. Oh, so was it the evacuation thing? Really? Okay.
Take that!
This itinerary for crew members of the SS Grouse, my lord. This is the conclusive proof. An itinerary? How does that prove anything? Judge Shikoku, the moment you acknowledge that you found the victim's body in your cabin, this itinerary suddenly became much more significant. What? Why? On the night in question, as always, a crewman sentry was on guard outside your cabin door. As long as he was there, nobody could have fired a shot inside the cabin. Absolutely, because it's inconceivable that the guard wouldn't have heard it and come investigating. So that tells us that the crime must have taken place when the guard was elsewhere. And that narrows it down to the 20 minutes just after 10 o'clock as indicated on the itinerary. Yes, I see no flaw in your reasoning so far. But the crucial point is this. When the evacuation drill took place, the steamship had already put to sea from the port of Dunkirk. Now, clearly, the murder could only have been committed by somebody who was aboard the vessel at the time. I feel like that's reasonable. What Prosecutor Soki stated in yesterday's proceedings. Which I am sure the court will agree is conclusive proof that Kazuma Asogi couldn't possibly have carried out the killing. Ugh. No, absolutely not. I don't accept that at all. What do you mean? The boy is just saying that to exonerate himself. We can't trust that he really disembarked the vessel. Obviously, after he left my cabin, he hid himself somewhere nearby on the ship, just waiting for his chance to come back and finish the... No, that's out of the question. Isn't it, Kazuma? As the defense rightly recalls, I disembarked the vessel and spent the night in a boarding house in Dunkirk. And as I said yesterday, I signed my name in the accommodations register book. All extremely easy to verify and undeniable proof. I mean, not proof that I have with me. We'd have to send someone to Dunkirk, but there's no escape this time. You can forget that you're a judge or a government minister. It's time you gave the court an honest answer as a common man. You killed Inspector Tobias Gregson and transported his corpse back to Britain. Then you dumped the body in a room on Fresno Street and made it look as if the murder had happened there. That's what really happened, isn't it, Seishiro Jigoku? It was that damned trial 10 years ago. That's when all this began. Looking back now, my fate was decided that day. I was doomed already. Oh. Well. It's over. My life is over. That's not supposed to... Gravity doesn't... That's fine. It's normal. He definitely Hulk smashed. British assassin to eliminate a professor in Japan. A Japanese assassin to eliminate a detective in Britain. Both assassins will use diplomatic immunity to evade conviction and return safely to their homelands. The assassin exchange requested arrived from Britain about 1 year ago. Though it was hardly a request, it was a demand. And for that, you decided to recruit Mr. Asogi. Things didn't go according to plan. Your chosen assassin never made it to Britain, and you found yourself unable to dispatch a replacement. Because I was already on my way to Britain at that time, in Cosmo's place. And that left me with only one option for carrying out my obligation. To eliminate the mark myself, personally. Of course, there was but a single opportunity for me to do that. The International Forensic Science Symposium, I presume. That's right. I decided it would be safest to carry out the plan before my arrival in Britain, so I enlisted the help of my British counterpart, and made arrangements for a pretext that would take the inspector to Dunkirk. To lure the man in, he was given a sham mission by the Reaper. What? The Reaper? There's only one person who could have done that. The mastermind of the entire operation. The Reaper himself. So, that means that the assassin exchange was... It's all planned by the Reaper! I'm not at liberty to say anything about my British counterpart, because he's standing above me now and will probably shoot me. Anyway, the inspector accepted the Reaper's mission and dutifully infiltrated my cabin in the steamship. But it was all a trap designed to lead him to France and his own death. Oh, how awful. It was past 9 o'clock when I returned to my cabin from the dining hall that evening. I didn't give him time to attack me and choked him until he lost consciousness. But there was a guard just outside the door, so I left it at that for the time being. Even the slightest noise might have aroused suspicion, so I bided my time, waiting. For the 20 minutes after 10 o'clock! I had intended to finish him by strangulation, but moments before I had the chance, he suddenly came round and went for me in a reckless mood. I received the British issue gun 16 years earlier, being a member of the judiciary as a visiting student. I never imagined I'd have to use it for something like that. So, the revolver belongs to you, does it? Then, the victim was killed inside your cabin on the SS Grouse, which begs the question of why you arranged for his body to be discovered in the room on Fresno Street. The young judicial assistant over there has already answered that question. There was no way I could take the body up on deck to throw it over the side. That's precisely where all the crewmen were gathered for the evacuation drill. So before the first-class cabin sentries returned, I took the corpse to the refrigeration room. And then, on arriving in Dover, you concealed the body in your trunk in order to smuggle it past the border place. This is why you never give lawyers guns, clearly, obviously. Or judges. I knew I needed to take steps if the police were to be convinced when the body was found in London. In that case, you must have known. You must have had intimate details of Inspector Gregson's intended schedule. Yes, my British counterpart sent me everything I needed to know. The inspector was due at Fresno Street at 5 o'clock that afternoon, in order to meet a man by the name of Hugh Boone, from whom he would take back his police identification. I mean, just imagine the judge from Phoenix Wright with a gun. Just imagine him deciding 30 seconds into a trial, guilty! Bang! I decided that man would be the perfect person to set up as the culprit, so I took a hackney carriage over there with the body still in my trunk. It must have been just after we took this photograph with you at the hotel then. Yes, I wasn't expecting a welcoming committee. I was more than a little nervous. On Fresno Street, I spotted a young girl selling little firecrackers. Miss Venus, of course. I conceived of the candle trick there and then, so I donned a simple disguise and approached the girl to buy enough firecrackers to replicate a gunshot. or sort of disguise. For some reason, the inspector had a bright red hairpiece in his own traveling case, so I put that on, although I suspect I drew more attention to myself in it than I would have otherwise. The hairpiece we found at the scene, the inspector had it ready for the Red-Headed League investigation. I only arrived at the room at around 4:45, so I quickly placed the body on the floor, moved the notice board, and set up my little candle trick. I arranged it so the firecrackers would go off with a bang around 15 minutes later. So that Mr. Boone, who was due to arrive at 5, would walk straight into a trap. Except, at the last moment, I made a careless blunder. What was that? I imagine it was the bag of fish and chips. Ah! I didn't notice that it had fallen out of his overcoat pocket when I moved the body in the refrigeration room. I put it back in his pocket the following morning, but... well, it seems the warmth of the heated cabinet accelerated the decay of the fish. Anyway, that's everything. All the sordid details of what I did. Yep, it's just gone. There's just no witness stand. It's just gone. I've heard enough. We've arrived at the truth about the murder of one of the country's most capable and respected police officers. The witness will be tried in the coming days. For a crime of such vile nature, you can expect the most severe penalty. Man, coming from the guy who most definitely gave him that mission. An exchange of assassins. What a foolhardy idea. Mr. Chikoku, one last detail. Who was your counterpart in Britain? Who was the mastermind behind the assassin exchange? He can't tell you because he'll get beaten over the back of the head with a freaking unicorn pipe. And that's no way to go. Nobody wants to be brained by a unicorn pipe. Nobody. Nothing you say now can make matters any worse for you. Just tell us. Enough. I've already told you that I cannot say. Yeah. Even though as things stand, you may very well never set foot in your homeland again. What are you waiting for? Can't we get this over with now? It's finished. All of it. I am finished. Then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I now pronounce the findings of this court. This man before us has admitted to the willful murder of Tobias Gregson. Welp. Seishiro Jikoku, it is in the opinion of this court, i.e. me, the sole person who has any bearing in this entire court whatsoever, that you should be found guilty. And may I remind all those present of the strict confidentiality demanded by this closed court. Well, moments ago, Mr. Jikoku signed a written confession, admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond a doubt. Oh, wonderful. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, thank you. Something wrong? I'm just a little troubled by his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey and this extraordinary assassin exchange. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries. However, insofar as the indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries as a prosecutor. As you wish. Now for the formal adjudication. I hereby declare the defendant Baron von Zieks.
Objection!
Well, there were still questions to be asked, obviously. The prosecution calls for adjudication to be deferred. Counsel, the accused innocence hasn't been fully established at all, and therefore it would be wrong to derive a verdict at this time. That's the prosecution's unwavering position. So he's going to postulate that Baron von Zieks is the mastermind who contacted Japan, yada yada. That's how we'll dig further in this. What? But Judge Jikoku has already confessed. Nevertheless, Baron von Zieks has committed crimes for which he must be punished. Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly, the murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Seishiro Jikoku, but it's clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot, into this sick, merciless assassin exchange. That may be true, but... So what I want to know is who coerced Jikoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went to France having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassin exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. As we've already established, the Reaper himself. Well, certainly, that would appear to follow. The prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock, Baron von Zieks, of being the Reaper of the Bailey, and furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. What? What? Excuse me. Order, order, order! The Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery, Counsel. Are you suggesting you have some new information with which to build a case? Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zieks very thoroughly in that regard, and they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper. Perhaps the circumstances have now changed. What do you mean? It's already been established that the assassin exchange was negotiated with Jikoku by the Reaper himself, which means we now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitively the man's identity. That is the prosecution's intention here. I must say I'm surprised by quite how tenaciously you appear to want to besmirch my name. You are guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Van Zieks, and I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes. That explains Kazuma's silence before. He'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zieks unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well. Whilst it is extremely irregular, I will on this occasion grant the prosecution further opportunity for witness testimony. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has had with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. I thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely. I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. Alright, back again. Pray, turn a blind eye to the discourtesies I verify with this vile and unremitting accusation. It hasn't soured the contents of my hallowed chalice. Lord Van Zieks! I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now. And ever since that time, I've endured the weight of implied guilt that's gone with it. So, I welcome the chance to testify now and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide, Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey. And what says the defendant? The defense. Putting the defendant on the witness stand can be extremely dangerous. And Kazuma-sama is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically. You're right that he's not himself, but I knew it would be like this, and I came here today determined to face him through whatever might arise, as a lawyer and as his friend. And that's what we must do. The defense has no objection, my lord. Very well, defendant, you will take the witness stand and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the assassin exchange. There is no. Oh, I guess they built it. You know, there's Bob the Builder. He can fix it, obviously, as you wish, my lord. The Reaper and the assassin exchange. I have never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I have been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. And that's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the assassin exchange. So you deny all accusations by the prosecution, both that you are the Reaper of the Bailey and that you masterminded the assassin exchange. I acknowledge that the public at large believes me to be the Reaper. However, that's a fallacy, which I alone am in a position to forswear. Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony just given by the accused to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Yes? Let me ask you, why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom? Desire to uncover the truth, even if the truth proves your client to be guilty. From all my experiences in this courtroom, I've come to realize something. The truth can't be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So it's always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth. I want you to remember what you just said. Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel for the defense, proceed to cross-examine the witness. Ah, yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Kazuma. I know you're just waiting to point it out. The contradiction, you're convinced, lies somewhere within this man's testimony. It's got to be the bit about having a connection between them. But I don't know how that ties to him. Reaper and the assassin exchange.
Hold it!
So you're not what the general public refer to as the infamous Reaper of the Bailey. Exactly. Don't imagine for a moment the court will be satisfied with a one-word answer on this. I realize that. If you're intending to comment on every sentence, this could take a while, Kazuma. Didn't you find it disturbing, though, that one by one, defendants who'd been acquitted after your unsuccessful prosecution were killed? Let me answer that question by posing another. If one by one, defendants who'd been acquitted after your successful defense were killed, would you find that disturbing? Disturbing? I couldn't possibly say how that would make me feel with a one-word answer like that. Exactly. Well, that told me. But even though I'm not the Reaper, that doesn't mean I ignored all the hearsay.
Hold it!
You said for years. How long exactly? Since the very first time the Reaper's influence was felt in this courtroom, 10 years ago now. And your investigation led you somehow to Inspector Gregson, you say? I didn't want to believe it. He was a personal acquaintance. We'd worked on cases together in the past. A friend, even. It felt like a betrayal, but I demanded permission to search his office at the Yard without his knowledge. which is when you found his secret notebook, is it? It's when I first learned of the location he'd noted only as Grouse, and the appointment at 5 p.m. on the 31st, though I didn't know the significance of those details at the time. So now we're at the nub of the matter. As it turns out, the significance for me personally was very unfortunate.
Hold it!
But why did you go to that specific location? I thought that if it was the Reaper's headquarters, then by turning up there at 5 o'clock I would catch whoever was involved red-handed. Sadly, all that was awaiting me was the inspector's corpse. Yes, even though it wasn't designed for you, you walked straight into the trap set by Jigoku. Exactly. Jigoku had no had intended to implicate Hugh, but unhappily for me, I arrived at the scene first. Ha! A ridiculously careless blunder. Moved on to just throwing insults around, I see then, Kazuma. Think what you will, it doesn't change the truth. This one is a link between you and Gregson, though. Of course, we were close acquaintances. We worked on numerous cases together. I considered the man to be a mentor of sorts. He taught me a number of important lessons. He did? Such as what? Where to buy good fish and chips, and such like. Well, that was convincing. Dr. Wilson was a coroner, of course, but that was some time in the past. It is a very good answer, yeah. And in any case, I understand it was several years ago now that he was invited to work at a Japanese university. That's right. He was a visiting professor at the Imperial Yumei University in Tokyo. It should be unambiguously clear then that no link exists between myself and him. In other words, I had no motive for sending some assassin across the oceans to kill the man. It sounds plausible enough, and I want to believe it, but something about this just doesn't quite sit right with me.
Hold it!
Certainly as it stands, there's no evidence to suggest that you can conquer the scene. But as it stands, we have only the accused's insistence of his innocence. Sorry? Perhaps there's some reason that would explain why he masterminded the assassin exchange, and if a reason could be established later in these proceedings, then the accused claim in his testimony that he wasn't involved would amount to perjury. Well, yes, that's true, but clearly Kazuma-sama intends to identify a reason and use it to make his case. So if we don't identify something first, we'll gain the advantage. This could be dangerous. A convincing testimony by Lord Van Zieks. Certainly, with no apparent connection between the three men, there's no way to establish a motive. The testimony seems unassailable as far as I can tell. Dear me, what a bleak expression. I agree, there doesn't appear to be any particular link between them, at first glance. With the inclusion of one other person, I must be overthinking it, surely. Another person, Mr. Naruhodo, need to think back over all the information we've gleaned so far. Alright, and I'll review my notes about the case and all the evidence in the court record. Could it be that Lord Van Zieks has something to hide after all? Okay, so it's definitely that. No common thread between himself, Gregson, and Wilson. It's gotta be this, right? No, I mean, that's just him. Well, Wilson did the autopsy on his brother's corpse. So if we add in his brother, that does provide a link. Would the evidence that we show be that one? Or the autopsy, though? got to be that one. We don't need the picture. We know 100% that was his brother. We don't need to prove he had a brother. No, that's a known fact.
Objection!
It's got to be, yeah. What is this? An autopsy report. Wait, this is 10 years old. From the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zieks. What? My brother's autopsy report. I'm pleased to see the defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth. Order in court. What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report here, counsel? This, the autopsy report of the professor's final victim, is an indelible link between Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, and the defendant. Not that accursed name again, the professor. I've personally researched all of the court records relating to the case. I know that at the time, autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victim's souls, and for a member of the aristocracy like Lord Clint Van Zieks, it was unthinkable. But someone implored the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead, Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the procedure, and it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible on the document. As promised by Gregson, the autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Genshin Asogi was guilty of the murders. In my brother's dying moments, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave that vital clue behind. Indeed, that was the key to indicting the professor for his crimes and the conclusive evidence that convicted him. It enabled Lord Van Zieks here to avenge his brother's senseless death with a marvelous victory in court. A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if that's really true. What? Could the same be said if it turned out that the key piece of evidence in question was in fact fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together to cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer and send him to his death. That's outrageous. And now, 10 years later, for some reason, the secret has been threatened and needs protecting. Which is why the inspector and the coroner had to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using the two killers recruited for the assassin exchange. Order at once. 10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer, to be sentenced to death, but it was all a sham, and I swore to myself that I'd prove it, which is why I had to come to Britain, whatever the cost. You'll have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast to this vengeful Nipponese's tenacity of purpose here. However, he who fails to quash his emotions in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer. Come on, Kazuma, you know this won't wash. You're claiming your father was misrepresented in a trial that took place a whole decade ago. You must see that without evidence, that's nothing more than a wild accusation. As it happens, I have evidence. What? As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31st. I went with him on the pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Seishiro Jikoku. But my true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth. What truth? The truth about the evidence, and he acknowledged what I'd already deduced. There's a closely guarded secret about what went on in that autopsy 10 years ago. What a secret. I know nothing of any secret. While we waited for my supposed mark in Jikoku's cabin, I drew my clan's illustrious sword, Karuma, before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was. Right, I see. You're that Asogi's young lad, aren't you? And what? You're gonna cut me down with that thing? Is that it? That will very much depend on the answers you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth, that's all. Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was the professor. There's no doubt in my mind. But unfortunately, back then, we didn't have the evidence we needed to make the crime stick. So, you admitted that. The evidence used in my father's trial was fabricated. It was for the good of the country. Anyway, I was just following orders. Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak! I'm not saying another word. Even if your life depends on it. That's right. Even then. So that's when the tip of the sword broke. Oh, Kazuma-sama. If the result of Clint Van Zeek's autopsy were fabricated, then the investigating officer Gregson and the lead coroner Wilson must have known about it, and they can only have been ordered to pervert the course of justice in that way by one man. The man leading the case for the prosecution, Barak Van Zeeks. No, not true. It could be another man. His superior. It could come from higher up. You blind bastard. Okay. In other words, the defendant did have cause to organize this exchange of assassins. Exactly. As was established earlier, it has to have been the Reaper himself who liaised with Jigoku in Japan to arrange the exchange. So, it follows that the Reaper's true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Barak Van Zeeks. Or his boss.
Objection!
Good. Kazuma Asugi. What? What you've just told the court, are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Gregson really fabricate evidence for that trial 10 years ago? I heard it with my own ears. His shameful admission. I mean, you have no evidence of it. You have no evidence that'll stand up in court, but... In that case, I know the name of the Reaper. What? What? Lord Van Zeeks. I gave no such orders. I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one. Lord Van Zeeks isn't the one behind all this. And yes, there's only one other person who could have done something like that. I believe I know who it is too. You. Just had a feeling this name was going to come up. The true identity of the infamous Reaper of the Bailey is... It has to be. Like, it has to be. There is so much overwhelming evidence. I'm not even going to say it has to be. The Pearls, yeah, of course. The only person who could have arranged the assassin exchange and manipulated the autopsy results is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mael Strongheart. What? Lord Strongheart? Yes, it's true that 10 years ago the defendant handled the prosecution of the professor in court, but he only took over the case after his brother, Lord Clint Van Zeeks, had been killed. I can only assume that this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history. Well, Lord Van Zeeks? 10 years ago, I was very new to my profession, but I had a burning desire to avenge my brother's death, so I pleaded for control of the case. The investigation to that point, the supplication of the Lords to allow my brother's corpse to be examined. All the evidence I was given, the autopsy reports, it all came from you. I've spent my life since then believing I was in your debt for the way you stood aside and let me handle the trial. But I see now, I was very much mistaken. It was a hugely influential force that caused the inspector and the coroner to break the law 10 years ago. And that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Seishiro Jikoku. Lord Strongheart, everything falls into place when we recognize that you are the Reaper of the Bailey. The court awaits your response, my lord. This may very well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you, it is no joke. The foot has spoken. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense. It doesn't warrant a response. A formal accusal? Don't be absurd. The defense's claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. You're not going to defend yourself. You claim there was some wrongdoing with Lord Clint Van Zieks' autopsy that is utterly untrue.
Objection!
But I heard it from Gregson's own lips. He admitted it. And where is your evidence? What? Gregson's dead now, unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand. You mean to say... I forget how the system works in your little backwater country, but in the courts of the British Empire, without evidence, there is no case. I have no intention of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by anyone or anything. Order in the court. Following Inspector Gregson's murder and in light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there's really no one left who could testify about the events of 10 years ago, is there? So that was the real purpose of the assassin exchange. This court has no business raking over the coals of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accusal brought on by the prosecution and the defense is categorically denied. I take it there are no objections. Kazuma, he's more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do now? Is there no other avenue we can go down in pursuit of the truth about what happened all those years ago? If only there was someone who could testify about Clint Van Zieks' autopsy. I mean... it's gotta be... well... it's Mikotoba. It's gotta be Mikotoba. He penned the report even though it wasn't signed by him. So like, yeah, there is someone. He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks, even so far as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence. And Dr. Seath won't say anything against Strongheart. But there's still one ray of hope.
Objection!
Actually, there is one person. One person who could still testify about that autopsy. Don't be ridiculous. There's no one left. Who, Ryunosuke? Who? Tell me. Kazuma, please, this trial can't end. Not yet. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the truth. The person the defense would like to call to the stand to testify about the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zieks is...
Take that!
Heaven help us, another Japanese. An expert in forensic medicine, my lord, Professor Yujin Mikotoba, 16 years ago. He came to London with Seishiro Jikoku and Genshin Asogi as a visiting student. And what could his testimony possibly tell us? Professor Mikotoba was the primary assistant during the autopsy in question. He was also the person who actually penned the report. Incorrect. The autopsy was carried out by the coroner, Dr. Wilson. The report carries his signature. It was the primary assistant's duty to keep a written record of the coroner's work during the procedure. In actual fact, the coroner merely read over the report at the end and signed it. In other words, Professor Mikotoba witnessed the entire autopsy from start to finish. The defense demands that Professor Mikotoba be summoned as a witness as a matter of urgency. Whatever really happened in that autopsy laboratory 10 years ago is something only he can tell us. The defense's demand is denied. Yeah, no kidding. The guy who's accused, who also holds unmatched, unequivocal power in this court, is going to deny the one person who might be able to, do something. What? But Professor Mikotoba is in London at this very moment. We could summon him to the stand in minutes. But why would he allow it? No, of course he's not going to agree to it. Yeah, no kidding. Strongheart has no intention of summoning anyone who knows. He's too concerned about protecting himself. Prosecutor Sogi, let me refresh your memory, as you seem to have forgotten the prosecution's stance. Only minutes ago, you accused the defendant of being the Reaper and of masterminding the assassin's exchange. I did, yes. So present your evidence for these claims and make your case complete. At this time, I don't have the requisite evidence, but that's exactly why we need witness testimony. The professor case is closed. There are no clues in the distant past that will bolster your argument today. I'm afraid to say, Prosecutor Asoki, that you would appear to be possessed by the spirit of your late homicidal father. Now, as I stated earlier, this court has already reached a conclusion with respect to the matter at hand. Inspector Gregson was murdered by Japanese Supreme Court Judge Seishiro Jikoku. As for any hidden circumstances that may exist, they will be investigated in due course by the proper authorities. But we all know what will happen. That'll just give the mastermind of the whole venture time to cover his tracks again. By which you mean me. Your punishment for this contemptible behavior will be decided at a later date. As for you, Prosecutor Asogi, you will be remanded following these proceedings. Willingly, I trust, since you gave your word. Ugh. This futile game of revenge is over, young Master Asogi. Grr. It's a little mad. That will be all. I hereby declare this trial to be... Is Mikotoba already in the courtroom? Oh, well, hello. Hey, Sholmes, how you doing? What? Mr. Sholmes! This is no place for amateur detection, Mr. Sholmes. May I remind you that these proceedings are closed to the general public. You will leave the courtroom at once. Mr. Sholmes was instrumental in the apprehension of Seishiro Jikoku before he fled from Europe. The court should hear what he has to say. Lord Mael Strongheart, it is imperative that you refrain from bringing this trial to an end at this stage. Is it really? And why would that be? You need only recall your own words from the opening of the trial to answer that question, if I may. We will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Surely it can't be that the shock of being accused of being the Reaper yourself has erased that from your memory, can it? The whole truth, sir, has already been uncovered. It would seem that we have a great many important members of the judiciary present here today. I put it to you, my dear fellows, should the trial end at this juncture? After all, why have you been invited to attend? To nod along to the prevarications of your superiors? Order! Order in the court! It seems to me that we stand before a door that leads to a new era of legal practices, a door that is ajar. let us emerge from the shadows of the Reaper's decade-long ascendancy. For you and you alone, my dear fellows, have the power to push this door open now. The auditors and the galley have no rights to express an opinion in court proceedings. Silence. He's right. The judge has absolute authority here. Yes, if he calls the trial to an end, it must end. What will that really do? I sense dark things occurring behind the scenes. Dark things indeed. Is there a single person here present who can honestly say, what's... The trial should go on. Summon the witness. That's right. We need to clear this up before that young Japanese fellow is remanded in custody. My lord, you assured those peasants that you would uncover the whole truth here. Those present, vindicate yourself of this outlandish accusation. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's the very foundation of British law. A toast to my dependable colleagues in the gallery. On with the trial! On with the trial! Testify! 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 Well, my lord, you hear the voice of British justice, I take it. I think you'll find it will be a rather awkward to silence. The court will recess briefly. I have no intention of shrinking from these allegations. Bailiff, arrange for the subpoena of the witness at once. As soon as the gentleman arrives in the courthouse, we shall reconvene. A recess won't be necessary, my lord. Pardon? Mikotoba is a close friend of mine. He accompanied me today and is waiting in the antechamber as we speak. I do believe he's been enjoying a little trip down memory lane, in fact. What? Professor Mikotoba is here in the courthouse. Mr. Sholmes, you didn't know this would happen, did you? My dear fellow, no one is in better position to answer that question than you, surely. No, me, Ryunosuke, you, Sholmes. I wasn't just asking for the fun of it, you know. Well, I must thank you for your assistance in this matter, Mr. Sholmes. However, you are of no further use here. Kindly leave the courtroom at once. But of course, in truth, I find myself rather busy now as a result of these developments. Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, yes. I trust you have Iris's little lucky charm with you. Absolutely. It is still in my pocket. She sends her regards and a reminder. If you find yourself at a dead end, the ears are at your disposal. Just one tug, if you please. Oh, of course. In that case, the trial will continue without delay. Bailiff, show the witness to the stand. You know what? He's lying. The trial will continue with a week's delay. I honestly feel like we're getting to the point where if we continue further, we won't be able to stop. And you can boo it all you want. I can't go late tonight. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night or the night before, which is one of the key reasons I ended up not streaming last night. I'm glad I streamed tonight. This is awesome. Things are getting heated, but I can't really stay up late tonight and still make it to work tomorrow, you know, a week. So I have to err on the side of earlier than later, but I'm glad we made it this far. Yeah, let's be honest, we'll start it off. Yeah. The case censored at recess. No, better. Like 3 sentences from here is a logical stopping point where they'll actually have me save and be a real stopping point. But I'm stopping it here, even though I know damn well that like 3 sentences further there'll be an actual stopping point. I feel a little bad that we're stopping at a place with music because it breaks tradition, but however, gotta do what you gotta do, you know. That said, hot damn, things turning up. We finally pointed the finger at the right person. We finally got, you know, the people on our side, at least on the side of finding justice. Not necessarily our side yet, but the side of continuing. They all probably believe he's innocent, and they're just like, well, why not just prove it? Why not just have this guy come up here, spout his nonsense, and prove it? But whatever. We have the opening. And that's what matters. So yeah, whether we'll finish this next week or not, I'm making no promises, but we will make more progress next week. When we finish this, the week after, we will start up the House in Fata Morgana, which I have actually now right here on PlayStation 5. Apparently, the console versions have more content and trophies and trophies and trophies and trophies. So not yet, but soon. For now, though, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. This has been Viper Survivorland. We have ourselves a monster, a quote, a Discord, and